Western Europe has an important year ahead. Many EU member states will hold elections and carry out crucial political reforms. The Union will be tested from within by nationalist and populist forces. From without, factors such as immigration, security, and even the return of hundreds of former ISIS members will create much anxiety in Europe. In part 1 of the analysis, we will go over the challenges that Western Europe faces in 2017. The next episode will focus on Eastern Europe and Russia. My name is Shirvan and welcome to Caspian Report. If you want to help our channel to produce more original content like this, please check out our fundraising page at patreon.com/CaspianReport. As explained in the Middle East report, the gradual decline of ISIS in Syria and Iraq will force their foreign members to return to their European host nations harboring violent intentions. For instance, in 2016, more than 200 radical fighters returned from the Middle East to the United Kingdom alone. In 2017, the number of returning jihadists will exceed that of the previous year. As a countermeasure, European intelligence services will boost their efforts to deal with the increased security threats. Certainly, many plots will be unfolded, however, complete security cannot be guaranteed. It's inevitable that many attacks will slip through the cracks. As a result, in 2017, we will see a continuation, if not a surge, of terrorist attacks in Western Europe. Moreover, these attacks will come at a crucial time. Many European states are scheduled to hold elections or pass reforms over the course of the year. For terrorist cells, 2017 will be the ultimate opportunity to exploit these fault lines. Radical groups will use terrorism to set the public agenda and shift the political poles. The objective of these attacks is not to cause physical damage, but to polarize European societies as well as isolate European Muslims, which will then contribute to the recruitment of additional radical fighters. Other than security threats, Western Europe faces an abundance of internal complications. One example is Brexit. With the approval of the Parliament, the British leadership will implement Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty in the spring of 2017. By activating the article, the UK will begin a 2-year departure course led by the European Commission. However, the activation of Article 50 will shake governmental policy. Every detail about the exit talks will be met with opposition. The dilemma concerning Brexit will continue to play out in 2018 and even 2019, but in 2017, as Article 50 is activated, the harsh realities of Brexit will start to sink in. The level of uncertainty will culminate in a weaker national currency and lower economic growth. London's primary objective will be to include as many goods and services as possible in its new free trade agreement with Brussels. A possible outcome is that the UK agrees to enter the EU's customs union. This is a trade bloc which imposes a common external tariff on all goods entering the union. Another showdown between pro- and anti-Brexit camps will occur during the vote on the Great Repeal Bill. Somewhere in the summer, British lawmakers will debate whether to instantly abolish the 1972 European Communities Act, which gives the laws of the EU legal supremacy in the UK. Meanwhile, in France, the nation will be preoccupied with the presidential elections scheduled for April and May. Most of the candidates share a similar policy on security and immigration, and nearly every major political party will criticize the EU and the socialist government. The candidates disagree, however, on economic policy. Therefore, French voters will essentially choose whether they prefer protectionism or free market economy. Among the main contenders is Le Pen of the National Front. Her approval ratings have sharply risen in the past few years, mostly due to her tough stance on immigration and security. Another major contender is Fillon of the center-right Republican Party. He served as the Prime Minister of France under the Sarkozy administration. In all likelihood, Fillon will coordinate the moderate voters against Le Pen and seek to secure a victory. Still, even in defeat, Le Pen's anti-globalization and nationalist sentiment will only strengthen in 2017. In Italy, the resignation of Prime Minister Renzi has enabled new general elections which are scheduled for 2018. However, a major political reform will take place in 2017. The Constitutional Court of Italy is most likely to approve a new legislation to reform the electoral law, which will introduce a proportional electoral system. The new electoral system will force political parties to form coalitions. In truth, however, the changes are meant to reduce the influence of Italy's Eurosceptic political party, the Five Star Movement. To the north, in the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Dutch politicians will also prepare for new general elections in March. Although small in size, the country is one of the wealthiest members of the EU. Yet, like most of Europe, nationalist and Eurosceptic forces will play a major role in the voting process. Wilders, the leader of the Party for Freedom, is leading in the polls. However, centrist Dutch political forces are likely to form coalitions in an effort to prevent Wilders from ascending to power. But to accommodate a coalition government, the Dutch centrist forces are likely to refute the authority of the European Commission. Germany is another core EU member that will hold elections in 2017. However, the German parliamentary elections are scheduled for September and October, which means that the outcome of the elections will mostly depend on the outcome of the French elections and Italian reforms. If moderates remain in control in Paris and Rome, then Berlin will mostly focus on immigration and security. However, if nationalist parties win the neighboring elections, then the German elections will react and focus on damage control. Since the German economy outstrips the German people's ability to consume, the economy is export-driven. At least half of the German GDP comes from exports, and about half of the exports are designated for other EU members. Furthermore, many of the EU regulations are designed to facilitate export dependency. In other words, Germany needs the European Union. Without the EU's free trade zone, the country will face an economic crisis as well as increased social and political tensions. Germany's dependency on the European regulations will determine Chancellor Merkel's reaction to neighboring France and Italy. If somehow the National Front in Paris or the Five Star Movement in Rome prevails, the German elections will focus on finances, stimulus packages, national currencies, trade regulations, and basically start preparing the country for a post-union environment. The thing is, the moment the nationalist forces gain power in France or Italy, they would organize referendums to leave the Eurozone. Such a referendum wouldn't even need to succeed. The mere announcement of such an intent in a core EU state would trigger banks to relocate their funds across the continent. In the process, the collapse of the euro would be set in motion. Even if moderate forces win the elections in 2017, the nationalist and populist sentiment will only grow stronger next year. And although the Union can bear the departure of Greece and the United Kingdom, it cannot survive the withdrawal of France or Italy. We have mentioned this before, but there are just too many conflicting interests within the European Union. Its collapse may be irreversible. Elsewhere in Europe, the refugee crisis will continue to divide the nation. Some governments will toughen national migration laws and deport refugees. Others will seek to reintroduce border controls within the Schengen zone. One of the leading complications of the refugee crisis is the fact that the flow of refugees arrives in southern European states such as Greece and Italy. Yet the destination of the migrants and refugees is Western and Northern Europe. Like most of the EU's predicaments, whether it's financial, legislative, or social, there is a lack of coordinated planning. As such, European states will fail to set up a coherent migration policy. One prime example of this failure is the EU's migration agreement with Turkey. Brussels is supposed to grant visa liberalization to Turkish citizens by October 2017. However, given the growing Eurosceptic circumstances, Brussels will fail to honor its commitments to Ankara. Subsequently, this grants Turkey the legal right to abandon the migration treaty altogether. But to avoid upsetting Turkey, the European Union is likely to delay the visa liberalization rather than to deny it completely. Still, however, Brussels is merely postponing a crisis, not solving one. In part 2 of the European analysis, we will focus on Eastern Europe and NATO's entanglement with Russia. We will go over the conflicts in Ukraine, the militarization of the Baltics, and much more. In any case, this was a Caspian Report by me, Shirvan. I want to extend special thanks to the following people on Patreon for making this report possible. And if you want to help our channel grow, please visit patreon.com/CaspianReport. Anyway, thank you for watching and sağ ol.